SantaCruzSentinel.com.
Hello and welcome to the Reporter's Notebook, presented by the Santa Cruz Sentinel. I'm your host, Anthony Tsolis, and today's topic is social media. And joining me today on that topic is the social media director for NorCal Newspapers, Christine Rushton. Christine, thanks for joining me.
Hi, Tony. Thanks for having me.
So where are you right now? You're obviously not sitting next to me.
No, I'm not sitting next to you. So I am in Chico, California this afternoon. It's part of my 3-city rotation throughout the week. I spend a day in Chico, a couple of days in Vacaville, and another couple in Woodland.
Oh, I didn't actually know that. I thought you were in Chico all the time.
Yeah, so we have, a number of papers all across Northern California, all the way up from Eureka, all the way down to Monterey. And so I like to move between at least a couple of newsrooms throughout the week.
Our topic today is social media, and I know this may sound like an odd question in today's times, but can you tell me what is social media?
Sure. And, honestly, that's not that odd of a question because anybody that uses it will know that it changes. It feels like almost daily sometimes. So social media in general, encompassing several things, is basically communities. It's spreading ideas, it's connecting people, it's, having a space for conversations, forums. You post things, you share things about your life, whether it be photos or videos or thoughts or whatever it would be. It's just connecting people when you get down to the bottom of it. And this can include major platforms like Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and Snapchat, but there's also a number of smaller ones out there that people use to fit whatever their interests are in life. So
they're a little bit more niche.
Exactly, and it really depends on the person. So I like an app called TuneUp.
I've listened to TuneUp before.
Yeah, so I used that for a while when I was trying to catch like sports games and stuff that I couldn't get on my regular radio or whatever it would be. So it's not something I use all the time, but fits a niche when I need it.
So newspapers, or at least us at the Sentinel, but it seems like newspapers in general were pretty slow to embrace social media. We were just posting things online, and of course there's we want people to pay for the product and pay for the paper, and we were kind of in the old model. How have you seen that change recently, or has it changed, and has it changed fast enough?
That's the hard thing about newspapers. I feel like we're often, and I hate to say this because I think that we're doing good work, but I feel like we're often behind the 8 ball when it comes to new technologies and innovation. And especially for larger newspaper operations like Digital First Media, for example, where you have a number of newspaper properties, like Santa Cruz is a part of, a group of 16 or 17 papers in Northern California. It's hard to move forward on new technologies and new ideas when you're pushing that out to a number of different newsrooms. But that's not an excuse. I mean, I think that we could do better with regards to social media and new technologies. But then the flip side is, the minute that we change what we're doing, the minute we adapt to a new Facebook algorithm or a new Twitter standard or, new additions on Instagram, like stories and stuff like that, I think that it's so quick that it's hard for us to keep up with it with everything else that we have to do on a daily basis just to get the paper out and the news out.
Right. We do have to, that's something that I've struggled with even just starting this podcast is I do still have to do my daily job. And, they didn't give me extra time to do this. I got to get the paper out on a regular basis. But something that you brought up, the Facebook algorithm changes and the some of the Twitter changes, that's affected us recently, just within the last few weeks. I know emailing you back and forth, we have, without getting into specifics of our numbers, but our numbers have dropped dramatically just because there is a line of code that was changed at Facebook.
Yeah, and that's not even something that, not sharing our numbers. This is industry-wide. This is not just isolated to us. Industry-wide, people are seeing a significant drop in their Facebook referrals back to their website. So basically, how many people are going on their Facebook page and clicking on a link that refers them back to the website for the full article. And that's because Facebook has decided that they want to prioritize their consumer base, which is people, readers, and just everyday users of the platform. And I understand that. I think that that's great that they are focusing in on, people's families, what their friends are sharing, and prioritizing what they really want to see in their news feed. But that does make it hard as publishers for us to, still be relevant with regards to that particular platform.
Do you see any danger in relying on platforms such as Facebook or Twitter to get our stories out, whereas traditionally in the past or with traditional media, like a print newspaper, we relied on ourselves. We had our own press, pressmen, staff. We got the paper out. We didn't have to rely on anybody else. But now it seems kind of like everything is pretty much outsourced, whether it be through Facebook or even, the printing of the paper itself.
Yeah, and that's kind of the nature of where the business model has taken us. But what I would say with social media is, I actually had another editor come up to me last week when Facebook made the latest change, and she said, "Is there a plan B? Is there a backup plan if Facebook just tanks and doesn't work for us anymore?" And I said, "You know what? At this moment, there really isn't, because it's something that we use, but it's not something that we created. So we don't have the power to control whether it supports us or doesn't." And that's just something that we have to live with and adapt with in the social world. But what I will say is that for us, give or take a couple of percentage points, and this is not a number that I worry about putting out there, our referrals are hover around the 30-ish percent. So for all of our social media, our traffic coming to our websites for news, it's about 30% of that comes from social. And so that means there's another 70% of people coming from searches or coming from, an email or coming from a link that their friend shared with them or whatever it would be, or just visiting the website. And that's a big chunk, that 70%. 30% is not something to shrug
it's
off.
Not nothing.
No, it's not. But, at the same time, it's something that, yeah. And then here's the other thing that somebody mentioned to me which is very true, is that if Facebook goes away, there's just going to be something that fills the hole. So it's just the way that social media works. When one goes away, another comes in to take its place. So
right,
that's what I would also.
There's a good chance that if we did have a plan B, since it is the plan B, it would probably go away long before Facebook or whatever our plan A is. So, there's kind of no real reason to have a plan B.
Yeah, and the other thing I mentioned to her was we don't really need a plan B at the moment, because though Facebook referrals have dropped, they're still our biggest referrer across all social platforms, above Twitter, above Instagram. Well, Instagram is owned by Facebook, but above all the others. So it may have dropped, but it's still the leader.
So we've got 30% of our web traffic coming in from Facebook, which means there's a sizable chunk of people out there wanting to get our news and wanting to read what we write. How do we, as a news organization, either at the Sentinel or industry-wide, utilize those people to help deepen our stories or work for, I don't want to say work for us, but help our news gathering, basically?
Yeah, and just to clarify, the roughly 30% includes all social, so that includes Twitter and any other platform. So, but again, predominantly Facebook. So, I live social 5, 6, or whatever days a week that I am working. And the interesting thing about it is it's a great way to connect with your readers. It's a great way to understand what people are talking about in the community, especially for local news, which Santa Cruz Sentinel is focused heavily on, is local. It's a good way to understand what your readers want to know more about. I feel like a lot of the times in journalism, we try to have an understanding of what people want to learn more about, but sometimes I think there's a disconnect in that conversation that becomes one way where we're telling people stories that we think they want to know about, as opposed to a two-way conversation of them saying, hey, I'd like more information about this, or this is what can you tell me more about it through your reporting? And that should be the relationship that I think we have with social, is it's helping us better understand our readership.
Do you think there needs to be any kind of balance? We used to have, back when I was on the copy desk here, we had what we called the Eat Your Veggie stories, which is the story that is not a sexy story. It's not one that, if you were to look at the numbers on the website, would probably get high readership. Nobody's going to click on it, but it's a story that you need to know. We needed to get that information out, and if it were in print, somebody might read it because it's just sitting there in front of them, but they may not click on it. I mean, do we still need to find that balance in today's world?
Definitely. I prioritize what I post on the different Facebook pages that I manage, including the Santa Cruz Sentinels. I prioritize what stories I post, because I don't post all of them. There is not space to post all of the stories that we do. And, in the morning time, it's a little lighter for us with regards to the number of people that are reading our news there. In the evening, it's when it's really high. So with regards to the articles that, like you said, may not be something that people want to click on right away because it might be heavy in a city council meeting or local policies or some sort of governmental development, which tend to be the harder to get people to click on stories. But I still post those. I try to post them in between some articles that I know will get good traffic. But I do post them because I feel like if we go too far into the let's share this article just so that we can get a bunch of people on our website and get that page view number up, and if we focus too much on that, then we lose sight of the underlying purpose of our job as journalists and as a newspaper, which is to help your local democracy, right? Exactly. So if we aren't posting the information that they need to be engaged, educated, and active in their local community or their city or town, then we're not doing our job. And that applies to social as well. So, we can post things that we think are going to be successful, but we also need to make sure that we're doing our job.
So you manage the Facebook pages for, what was it? It's about 16 papers in the NorCal News Group, right? Somewhere around there.
It's 16 or 17, it's something like that.
And I think I've mentioned this to you in Facebook or in an email before, and when you came down and I met you. Do you notice any difference with Santa Cruz as compared to anybody else, or is every community fairly unique in their own right?
Every community is unique in their own right.
And everybody, of course, thinks there's the one that's unique, and like, we're the special ones.
Yeah, and that's part of the reason that I find California, and especially Northern California, so fascinating. We hear a lot in the news about, Southern California and the Bay Area, right? And those are kind of two focus points, and then the capital in Sacramento. But Northern California is an interesting bunch of people. So the people that are going to interact with us on social media in Paradise, California, which is kind of outside of the Chico area, they're going to be totally different from what you're going to see in Eureka, which is way up on the coast, or even all the way down in Santa Cruz, right? Because those people have different political views. They have different communities. They were probably raised differently. They have different industries that are, the reason that they're working or living in that town. And so all those conversations, all of those focus points are going to be different. Santa Cruz, for example, has a significant homeless issue and conversations around that in your community, but that's not prevalent in places like Paradise or in other communities. I mean, it's prevalent in a lot of communities, but it's not as heavy as, say, somewhere like Santa Cruz at the moment. And so that's going to fuel and change what kind of conversations we drive on our social media. We're not going to pick a story that, say, Paradise would pick in Santa Cruz and vice versa.
It feels in many ways like Santa Cruz as a community, and maybe to some extent just us as the newspaper itself, but as a community, we've been slightly resistant to social media. We have a very strong group of people who write letters into us all the time. We always have too many letters than we can run, and I know some communities there struggle to get enough letters to the editor to run. We have more than we know what to do with, and then if you go onto our website and look at the comments section, you got about 12 people that are regulars. That's probably why they subscribe to the paper. How can we get these people who have strong opinions and want to be involved with the news and with the community? How can we get them to engage in a conversation with us at the newspaper?
Are you asking as it relates to social or just in general?
As it relates to social, because I know it's, coming in through, like, say, Facebook.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as it relates to social, because in my head I'm thinking there are some people out there that will never move to social, and that's okay. It's not for everybody, but it is a good way to connect with your community if that's something that you want to try. But with regards to social and specifically Facebook, for example, I like the use of Facebook groups personally. It's something that's become more of a highlight in the last couple of months since the latest algorithm changes. And it goes back to the platform's move toward having better engaging and just better conversations, I guess is the best way to put it. A lot of general conversation on the platform can sometimes be yelling at people or just arguing or just nonsensical comments. And groups, because they're membership oriented, because you have to, want to be in the group in order to comment and be a part of it, they're a little bit more invested, those people that join them, in having a conversation. And you can, put up rules for the group that say, no hate speech, no different types of rules, whatever you want. You can be as loose or you can be as tight as you want on them. And then people that violate that can be warned and potentially banned from the group if that's the case. And so what that creates is a place to have conversation about a topic that is a little bit more, hopefully, open than you would get on a regular page.
Yeah, I mean, letters and comments, for example, they're a one-way street, one-way conversation. Whereas Facebook, Twitter, anything social media, I mean, by its very name, social media is interactive. First word, social, just being with a group of people having a conversation. A conversational community is basically what social media seems to be to me. And I think that's something that I wish that we, and me personally, were better at utilizing. But I enjoy that aspect as opposed to the letters, which I do enjoy immensely. They're they're very unique here in Santa Cruz, but they're one way. I can't talk back or have a conversation with somebody who's writing a letter to the editor. And comments can be a little, I think 50% of our comments are grammar corrections for the previous comment. So that doesn't seem to happen quite as much on Facebook. And you mentioned Facebook groups. We have a group for this podcast. Is that correct?
Yes, you do. So in an effort to, because like I said, Facebook groups belong to a specific topic or a niche group or something. They're not really good for general news or general topics, which is why it's perfect for this podcast, for example, because you now have a group where people can come talk to you about the show, ask you questions. You can maybe preview the next episode, have people call in with their thoughts if they want to that you can include in the episode. It's just a great place to build a community around your podcast.
And you mentioned calling in, and that's a perfect segue to tease that we do have a phone number. You can call in and leave a voicemail for us if you have questions or anything you'd like to know about this particular newspaper or the news business in general. A lot of us have a lot of experience and have been to a couple different newspapers, and we can, if we don't know the answer, we can at least talk about a nice topic or get somebody in here who does know the answer. So the phone number to call is 831-706-3205. And there's a good chance that if you call and have a great question, we'll just play it on the air and maybe even spend the whole time talking about it. Christine, thanks for joining me today, and thanks for supporting this podcast. I know you seem to be pretty excited about it when I told you.
I am, and thank you for having me.
Okay, this has been the Reporter's Notebook, not the Reporter's Podcast. I can't even get the name right. This has been the Reporter's Notebook, and if you'd like to subscribe, you can search for us on iTunes or Google Play. And again, give us a call, 831-706-3205. You can also find us on Stitcher now. Thank you very much for listening.